Welcome back to our YouTube channel, The Overflow. I'm Brian,
I'm Rosalind.
and this is a show where we want to create a safe space, a place where we talk about marriage and the issues that come up and share our experiences. We're not experts, but we feel like in our overflow, we want to be able to give others the info, the experience that we've went through.
Yeah, again, we're not experts. We are not experts.
Yeah.
We are not experts. Don't come for us if you do what we did and it doesn't work for you. There is value, though, in anecdotal experience. There is value in people sharing their experiences, people sharing their wisdom that they pulled from their own personal journeys. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to share what we've gone through, our perspectives, and we're sharing from a place of overflow. We're at a place in our lives where we feel like we have excess to share. We have done a good job, and when I say job, we have done the work of fortifying our foundation of our marriage.
Yeah, reviewing things and really like building up and really like even building ourselves and doing that kind of self work to where we have stuff to give and even like to be able to share, really, just really be able to share. And this just leads to our first segment. You know, what are you learning this week?
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Well, yeah, I can go first. Like this week, I'm learning really like just knowing what you need from a partnership, whether it's friendship, relationship wise. Being able to clearly communicate that and just identify it is really powerful. You know, this week, you know, I was just talking to my cousin, and we were just discussing like, he had an idea of he wanted me to be involved, and I had to express to him that I couldn't do it because of just how I felt felt in our relationship and where we were at, emotionally, and it was because I, through my marriage realized what I need, and I was like, hey man, I feel like we can't be as vulnerable with each other. We had this conversation, and it was a tough conversation, but since I was able to have those with my wife, and I'm learning more about that, it was an easier conversation, and he was receptive, and we both came to an understanding of each other, and now we're able to be closer than if I just didn't have that conversation or not understand what I need from a partnership or a relationship just in general. So I think that's the thing that God's showing me this week is really helping me understand that kind of thing. What about you?
I'm learning how to go high. I am definitely learning what that looks like, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, everyone refers to Michelle Obama when she says, when they go low, we go high. And that could be applied to so many different things in life, but really when someone is in an emotionally low place and is trying their best to pull you down where they are, because that's what misery does, or that's what just hurt feelings do, just in general, and so I had to learn how to feel my feelings, but not either go down there or don't stay down there. Be human, but also remember who you are choosing to be. Who am I? Who am I deciding to be? And I need to act like her. I need to behave in a way where I can confidently talk about being a child of God. I can confidently talk about being a spiritually mature, just an emotionally mature person. I can confidently talk about or express or even just show my son an example of what that looks like. And this past week, I've been given another opportunity to learn what that what that looks like. And it took a couple days longer, I think, than I would have liked. But I'm at a place where I'm saying it took a couple days longer and not months.
Yeah.
So that's growth, but I'm still learning, and it's not my reaction. It's my response, and I would love to get to a place for it to be my reaction, going high immediately. And so, thankfully, though, even in I was low for a second, I didn't react. I didn't respond. I was quiet. When I was in that emotionally turbulent space, I didn't speak to whomever that was coming from and directed to. I didn't make things worse like I wanted to. I did. I didn't. So even though no one but my husband and my mentor know what my low looked like, it's still a personal thing. So that's what I'm learning this week, is to go high, but in myself.
Yeah, first. That's real good with just being able to not react, because I think everybody wants to react immediately. You know, when you have those kind of situations, and you know, that's never easy. I think it's an ongoing, you know, thing going high.
Remember that introduction when I told you we will share a lot, and we will be transparent. Some things we won't because it's just none of your business.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. We might talk about it later, and it's not a intramarital thing. It would be talking about other people, which at this point we only want to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
And what we are going through specifically. So saying my part of what I went through and what I'm learning is how to go high quicker. And that's what that was. And I'm grateful my husband was patient and supportive during that process. Because he could have went low too. Yeah. It's
like I said, it's a thing. I think for the grace of God, you know.
Because even when you go low, God still loves you.
Yeah, He still loves you, and He still cares. So He helps me a lot. And I know, like I said, it's a thing. You have to have mercy and grace and patience, you know, for yourself and your partner.
Yeah.
When they're both going through that.
Oh, another thing I learned that piggybacks off of that. When I mentioned having a mentor, when I first got serious about my pursuit of God and what does that look like, and what does it look like to be a Christ follower, and what is that like? What, you know? And I came across something that said, if you want to be better at something, if you really want to succeed at something, look for someone who is successful in that area and ask them to be your mentor. Like, find a mentor in that area. And so the most spiritual person I knew was my good friend's mom. And I asked her first because her and her mom are like super tight, and I didn't want her to feel like encroached on, you know. I just wanted to go about it respectfully. And we were still teenagers at the point. You know, teenagers, she's always been mature and very spiritually and emotionally sound, but I still asked. And she said yes, of course, and she was excited that someone else would get to have a closer relationship with her mom because her mom is so awesome. But she's been my mentor since I was like 19. My spiritual mentor, 19-ish, 19, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Long time. And so I was still feeling how I was feeling, and I went to her and she listened to me talk about the situation, and just an amazing thing that she said was, when people are acting a certain way, especially if people are calling you things, they're saying things about you that you just know are not true, they're revealing to you areas that they need help in. And so I, of course, especially going through therapy, you know what projecting is and all that stuff. And I think we even said they're projecting, you know. But being my spiritual mentor, she says, these are the things you pray for them about. You know, she's like, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Because beyond just being like, they're projecting and feeling a way about it, now what are you going to do? And what are you going to do as a child of God? Like, it's not up to you to fix them by any means. And you still don't have to entertain the foolishness either. But pray for them for that thing and watch God move. And it's truly a thing that I've seen her do with other people. I've seen the power of prayer in our marriage. I've seen the power of prayer in other people's relationships with others. And so just that reminder, I left her home feeling more like me, like I'm supposed to be, like my true nature, because feeling in that emotionally low or turbulent space wasn't comfortable. It didn't feel correct. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like that's me anymore, and it's not. And so it was just a beautiful thing to be able to have someone teach me in that moment, and being open to learn. And so, to piggyback on my earlier thing of learning how to go high, but also learning how to take direction in those moments, and remembering to pray for people who are lashing out because they're unhealed or unhealthy in certain areas. But also, you don't have to stay in the line of fire. You can move out the line of fire and still pray for them. We don't have to take abuse to be good Christians. Mm-hmm. But if that's what you want your nature to be, as far as Christ, like, it's okay to pray. God says, pray for your enemies. And I don't see these people as my enemies by any means. But, yeah, the lesson was I'm learning to pray for people who make me upset, mm-hmm. and learning how to go high when I'm upset.
Yeah, and that's like, just to add what you're saying is, or what I'm getting, even just listening to you about, like, being able to have a mentor to be able to take you out of that spot. A lot of times I think when we get in our feelings, it's very hard sometimes to, like, even me, the thinker, to think myself out of them. It takes sometimes, my wife saying something, or because it might come out somewhere like another way. Let's say I'm in my feelings about something, that happened, later on or early that day. I'm frustrated about, like, the service I received, or business, or just life, right? But I'm being short with my son, and then my wife has some, hey, you're acting and you're feeling, are you okay? Checking in on me. And then it makes me be like, okay, I need to take a moment to process what I'm feeling, and then it helps. But, you having your mentor be able to speak to you to help remind you who you are, and then what it really is, and where you can improve, that's very important, man. And you sought it out to, like, mature spiritually, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. But just leading on to the next segment, you know.
Real quick though, Brian's fighting a cold, and I'm fighting the potential of a cold.
Yeah.
So I got my tea. He sounds a little congested, just in case you hear him.
Yeah, if you sound
clear his
different.
throat or something like that. This is what's happening, because he got the ick, and I'm trying to not catch it.
Yeah. Because I might eventually have to be taking care of her, if she catches it, or I should say when she is fighting it. Because that's what most likely is going to be. You know how it is, man. When one family member gets sick, it just goes around the whole house.
I'm not getting sick. I took my elderberry today.
Yeah.
I refuse. I've just decided I'm not.
Yeah, but
I'm opting out this time.
So you said I'm not being a part of that.
I'm not. But yeah, so like we said before, we might bring up celebrity topics, but not to talk about that celebrity in particular. We're not a gossip channel. We're not doing that. But other people's public situations bring up good conversation points that we can talk about. So this past week, Lil Romeo and Master P, they're going back and forth publicly, right? And so if you don't know what's going on, it's the week before Christmas right now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just saying that it's the week before Christmas. Go Google Lil Romeo, Master P, and you can get the whole scoop on the drama and what's going on with them. Because I don't care to do a synopsis of.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm not saying like it's like gossip. Is clearly everybody knows about it, but I'm saying in the sense of, like, it brought up an interesting ideas for marriage, in the sense of, like, we saw that Little Romeo's was triggered by Master P's comment about Twitch death and caring about it, and caring about, hey, mental health is real, we should be helping, or, helping these people are going through stuff like this.
Right.
And Romeo spoke, saying this not his real image, or, you avoided your own children, But for us, it kind of sparked the idea of a conversation of, how our childhood trauma or the things that we go through with our parents as a, as in from an adult perspective affects your whole marriage,
Your just whole adult life.
Yeah,
My
whole
mom
adult
happened
life,
to
yeah.
be there when we were talking about it, so we had the perspective of a parent of grown people,
Yeah.
and then we also had our perspective as parents and as grown-ups who are somebody's children. And so it's just a unique thing. Not unique. It's a unique position we were in, I guess, to be able to even just start talking about it with my mom. She happened to be there when we were looking at it, and having the perspective of, as parents, if we miss the mark or we drop the ball in certain areas, it doesn't have to be as in parenting as a whole, which I think a lot of times parents might take it that way, is when they say you were just a terrible parent, versus we could have used more support in this area. And that's usually what we're saying, but sometimes it's heard as you failed me as a whole and you were awful to me, and I guess that's a different conversation. But the ways that our parents may have dropped the ball or not been able to, because 9 times out of 10 they dropped the ball because they didn't know they had it.
Yeah.
Or they, you know what I mean? Or they just didn't know what to do. They didn't have the tools to do the things that we might have needed from them as children, and even as parents now. I'm sure there's going to be things that when our son gets older, he'll say that we could, you could have spent 10 minutes cuddling with me every night instead of one, mommy.
Yeah.
It'll
We understand,
be something. Your brain doesn't get to decide what trauma is, and that's a thing I think that I learned in therapy, because when my therapist told me what, or helped reveal like what my trauma was, it was difficult accepting that, because I was like, my parents weren't abusing me. Like, I read The Child Called It in school, and my life wasn't like that, so I had a good childhood. We laughed a lot. We went on vacations. We visited family in different states. We went on road trips. You know what I mean? Like, we went to the beach, all these things, and multiple things can be true at one time. Yes, you went to the beach, and also you needed more in these particular areas, and your brain then decided that was traumatic for you. And when I say trauma, I mean, I don't remember most of my childhood. And that's a trauma response. That's your brain protecting itself. And there wasn't anything dramatic happening in those times. And I think that's what we think. When we think of trauma is something dramatic, something huge, something,
big
you know what I mean? Like your mom punching you in the face, or your dad, you know what I mean? Like just like being refused food, or being locked out of the house in the cold. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Or kicked in the back,
just thrown down the stairs. And
like, hey, man.
God forbid that, it's happening, but those things definitely weren't happening to me. And so I'm thinking, well, I wasn't going through anything extreme. Mm-hmm. I just have bad memory. And I learned that's not normal. That's trauma. And that's your brain's way of saying you were so anxious and so traumatized, and I'm using quotations because that's a technical term, is you were traumatized, that your brain decided to just not to isolate these things and put them away. And so I have literally a handful of memories from before I was like 10.
Yeah, and like just to add what you're saying about like not having the tools, like we understand as parents, like even I understood more as a parent, like our parents, like you're just figuring things out as you go, and if you're really not paying attention to like what's going on with your children or your child, or the needs and the wants, and then also what we talked about last week, even with or early this week, about mentors, like parenting. We talking about how like it's the ultimate form of mentorship, and you have to adjust for that child. You know what I'm saying? So like, I definitely understand that, but I understand also like how there's been like issues like from childhood that has leaked into our situation, where it's like, okay, well, you're not hearing me because of this. You know, I'm arguing with you because you know I want to feel like I'm heard or my opinion is valid.
And we both do, and it's so funny how like our trauma is similar as far as not feeling heard and validated, feeling dismissed and misunderstood. But the way they present themselves is totally different.
Totally different.
Brian is very short, and so I'm like, have to use more words to explain what you're saying. You can't give me a 50-word response in 7 and expect me to fully understand. And then my thing is over-explaining. And so I am just, instead of just being like, no one's going to hear me, so I'm just not going to say anything, maybe they'll hear me if I say all the things. Mm-hmm. And so it's something we've had to like...
Yeah, man, just hurry up, get to the point. You know, and I'm like pressing that on her, you know, and she's trying to, like I said, over-explain, and I'm like, I want to hear all that. I want to hear just what it is, because I feel like that's how you validate something. And then I'm like, you know, and then she's telling me that I'm not really hearing her or listening, or I'm not giving her space or time. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're not just telling me what I need to hear? You know?
Because you felt like you had to only give the Cliff Notes version of what you had to say because no one was going to give you more time than that. Mm-hmm. So then you grew up as an adult figuring this is how communication should look. Mm-hmm. And I think it should be somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I do tell a story where it's like, you know, we're going from point A to point D, and there's a straighter line to get there, but I'm going to hit all the letters in between so you can get the full picture. I'm going to paint the full... You should be able to do an artist rendering after I get done telling you the story, because there's enough details.
So I say it's necessary. I come to a place where I understand that's who she is, and I accept that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not she's just gonna tell me all the things that I feel like are unnecessary, but those things feel necessary to her to explain. You know, so I feel like if she's telling me a story, like you just was in the kitchen, you know, and I was like, okay, all those parts are necessary. You know, I'm not like, she's just painting a picture and it's like, it feels like useless information, but again, I understand when I'm projecting and when I'm just like, okay, that was part of the story. That's how she explained it. So,
yeah. That's how. But also, he rarely asks me a question after I get done telling the story.
Yeah, unless
you have all the information. Parts. Unless it's confusing, it's very rare does my husband need to ask me what's going on, what's happening, who's that again, or what's going on. You know what I mean? Like because I give him all the information up front, and it's very rare that he's asking me in the dark about anything because he has all the information. And so I have just had to get used to too asking questions. Just hoping to ask fewer questions, but still knowing I'm going to need to ask questions because it's not his nature to just offer random information or what may feel like random or just not pertinent information right now. And so we've had to move to a happy medium of...
Yeah, giving more details. Like sometimes I have to just make sure I just tell her like if something goes wrong or right or just...
Yeah, don't talk to me like I'm on a need to know.
You know, because I'm just like...
You're doing life together.
Man, don't have to... Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, you don't have to think about it. It's not a burden. It's not a thought that needs to be had. It's I think it's like one of those man thing where we like, man, she don't even need to be thinking about it. Because she think about this, she going to be thinking about something else. And then
I'm a whole adult.
It all
I
tumbles.
I can make those choices for myself.
Yeah. But you can, and you know... And I think when we focus, it's not me. When I moved out of the fear of focusing on your response or being afraid that you won't be moved out of a funky mood, that's when I was able to feel like I can give more details. You know, because...
And part of that work was me not taking what he says and then moving into a funky mood and for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that didn't have to do directly with us and our marriage, our home, and our child. Because I am a very empathetic person. And what someone else has gone through can, not so much anymore, but has literally ruined my night.
Mm-hmm.
And then his night.
Yeah.
And what he was looking forward to that night.
Yeah, you know, you just...
So that's my work, right? And so if he's going to feel comfortable expressing those things, my side of it is to not punish him for it. Yeah. Essentially, it was feeling like he was getting punished for telling me stuff. So he would just hold on to it, and it would, you know, that's a form of manipulation, we knew, withholding information so that you can keep someone behaving in a certain way. And so we just learned to carry our own weight. His weight is getting uncomfortable and saying certain things or telling me certain things, and then my weight to carry is to do the work, process, get through whatever you're feeling so you can come back to yourself and your home and your life. Yeah, but a lot of that stuff, a lot of it stems for childhood, and I think as an adult, it's okay to acknowledge, like, this is where that came from, this is why this is like that, this is where I got that from, and now that I know that, it's my responsibility to do something about it, right? And so, yes, it comes from childhood, and, you know, logically that points to parents or whoever your guardian, whoever raised you, but you're grown now. At this point, you're an adult, and now it's your job to manage, heal your own trauma, your own issues. I can't be in my 30s blaming my parents for anything. You know, at this point, now we can say, oh, okay, you could trace it back to its root, you know, but still, they don't, you know, my mom mentioned, she was just like, we don't got to do nothing for y'all, because I said it would be cool, and this is completely speculating what the issue was with Master P and Little Romeo, because I don't know all the details. They didn't give all the, you know, details. There was a lot of hinting at things in their posts. And so I said, assuming this means that and that means this, I think it would have been wise for Master P to say this. And my mom said, well, he don't have to say nothing to his son. He don't owe him nothing. And that's true. It's very true. Our parents don't owe us anything at this point. I do think, though, if you are a parent of an adult, of a child, a person in general, if you're a parent in general, if you know you did something that eventually caused your child harm, or you didn't do something that eventually caused your child harm, there is such value in acknowledging that for the person who's doing the work of healing, because your acknowledgement or apology isn't going to heal them. Yeah. That's not what's going to heal them. That's still their own personal work, but it helps so much. Because that's one less thing to fight through. There's a step that you have to go through in that healing of, if they have apologized, okay, so you don't have to do that particular step. But if they haven't apologized, or they're refusing to acknowledge, or they're gaslighting you and telling you that's not the truth, that's not your experience, then there's another level of healing to do, where you have to say, okay, now I have to forgive someone who refuses to acknowledge they hurt me. And you forgive for you. You forgive because not forgiving, that there's weight in that, and it takes up space. And so if you want space for other things like love and family and your children, just working on forgiveness frees up space. And so you have to go through the mud of dealing with the feelings and emotions of, this person didn't care enough to apologize. And then you have to go through another level of, okay, well, maybe they could care enough to apologize if they had the capacity to do that. Or if this person had the ability to do this, if they even are aware of themselves enough to do that work, because that takes work in them. So for them to be able to see it. So there's just more muck to work through, and it's possible. And then it's possible to have a peaceful relationship with that parent who's still denying, your reality, right? And they're still saying, I did no wrong by you. I didn't do nothing.
I tried my best.
I tried my best. And yes, you tried your best. And also, you stepped on my toes too. And that hurt. And it's okay to say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes.
Yeah.
I love you. You love me. I hope your toes heal.
Yeah, then also share. I think what the thing is sometimes too is not sharing the mind change, or not sharing the the thought process of saying, okay, this is what I kind of value now. You know, a lot of parents, I know my ideas will change as I grow and I expand, but if I said something to Owen, you know, that probably like guided his the way he thinks, the mindset that he has, and then I speak something that's opposing the mindset that I taught him, you know, he might have a problem with that, you know, and it's for me to acknowledge, like, okay, well, son, I'm sorry, I didn't know then, and this is what I did. I did say these things, you know, and I didn't mean it this way, but now I know that, you know, this is different, you know, and now my mind has changed about these things, you know, and I think when parents are not able to say that, or they acknowledge somebody else's pain, but not their kids, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have those kind of issues.
For example, and I know this is common, and I'll just speak generally because I know it's not just in our families. Say the adult, the millennial adult, was spanked as a child or beat as a child, right? Whatever level of like corporal punishment by their parent. Now that millennial has a child, and that child's grandparent is advocating for their parent to never put their hands on their child, without acknowledging, now that I'm older, I see that it wasn't necessary to do that. There was other ways to teach and to discipline and to, you know, do all these things, right? Have patience. And I didn't have the patience for you that I wish I would have, and that I would like for you to have with your child, because I see the difference of what it can do, right? Without having that conversation, it's, well, I'm just a grandparent and you don't need to beat your kid.
Yeah, and how it, you know, and not understanding that.
It's frustrating. Yeah, it's a frustrating position to be in, and you know, I can't tell anyone what to say and what to do, but we can also, as people who think as individuals, and we are able to decide what we want around us. Yeah. That's just a small example on what we're talking about and what it could be. And if it's to a point where it becomes like a toxic thing, yeah, as the grandparent or the parent of us, you can say, do whatever you want, but we don't have to be a part of it.
Yeah. Now. You have to take that, and I think that's what is confusing to a lot of people in this generation is our generation is not tolerating the disrespect or just we're
boundary pushing, overstepping.
Yeah, boundaries, and just passing off things and letting things slide in the sense of like, hey, these are our grandparents, or these are people in our lives, or they're just supposed to be there, you know. And I think we are, as a culture, you know, of parenting, and even just black people are moving to a healthier spot, you know, a healthier place where we're like, okay, we're not going to tolerate this kind of language, these kind of actions treated towards us, no matter what age, you know. It's just not right. But yeah,
I think that's different. There was less autonomy enforced, less autonomy insisted on from generations older than us. When it comes to generations older than them, they let their elders say and do whatever because of respect looked different for them, and they did a lot of well, that's my mom, so she could say or do whatever. That's my grandma, she could say or do whatever. Yeah. And of course, grandma gets more patience from me than an adult my age, right? Yeah. Also, grandma, you're not gonna talk to my son like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Grandma, you're not. You know what I mean? And if and it's gonna be just that.
You're not gonna speak to my life.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Exactly. And I think. And I think
it's not. Yeah, it's just not a. it's not, we are setting boundaries, and also we're willing to not come around if our boundaries aren't respected. It's not going to be a thing that would never like, grandma, next time you talk to my son like that, I'm gonna fight you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that, it's not that vibe,
Yeah.
right? But it is. This is how we are going to be treated, or we just won't be around. It'll be a phone call every once in a while, check in on you. I'll still send you stuff. I'll still, see about you, but I cannot entertain certain things that are unhealthy for us, our peace, our marriage, and especially our son.
Yeah, and I'm not, and just what I had to learn personally is that, and what we even kind of talked about, like, I'm not going to make sure my family is more comfortable than my spouse.
His extended family.
Yes. My
his
wife,
family of origin.
Yeah. My wife is important. And I think a lot of people struggle with is not understanding, even though your wife could leave you. Even though you feel like that's what people say. Family's forever. That person can come in and come out. And that's
It just might with that attitude.
Yeah, and if you're just not having priorities, we all like you'll see a list of like those little memes come out all the time.
Who comes first?
Yeah, who comes first and all these things, and man, people just have it like out of order, in the sense of like, if I'm not loving my wife correctly, all right, which we believe it's like loving yourself, So if I'm not loving myself correctly, all the way I love everybody else is incorrect. You know what I'm saying? So I can't even love my children correctly. I can't even love my extended family correctly. I can't even love my, my friends or whatever, even my passions correctly if I'm not loving myself, and especially that ties into my partner.
And that's our perspective. That's what I agree 100%. We know that that's a polarizing opinion. We know that in itself could be an hour-long debate.
Yeah.
But that's just how we feel, and we didn't necessarily grow up like that. Neither one of our families. No. I didn't grow up in a home, and neither did Brian, where that was the truth in that home. 9 times out of 10, either it's the parent as the individual, not as the spouse, putting themselves first, or children above everything. And just us personally, our anecdotal experience is what we've witnessed is if we're not fortifying our marriage, it will fail. It will fall apart. It will crumble if we're not putting effort, time, money, investing, just all the resources you have, investing into your marriage. And I don't mean all the resources you have. I mean all the different types of resources there are. Yeah. Time, money, emotion, all those things. Into your marriage, it is unlikely to flourish in the way that we want ours to flourish. And we want ours to be a beautiful, strong, amazing thing when our child is grown and out the house, and we're not looking at each other like, oh, who's this person once he leaves, because we don't know ourselves as a couple outside of our child, and learning each other along the way. That's part of it, because you're gonna grow. There's no way say our son is home for 20 years, say he's home for school, and in the 20 years of his life, we should change and grow significantly in that time, and so maybe not significantly, but fundamentally probably we need to still be learning each other and knowing each other, so we don't look up and we're laying in bed next to a stranger. And that takes time and effort, and it just does. And when I say invest money, I mean buy books, subscribe to podcasts,
time and energy,
going on dates, things like that cost money. And just little moments, like we have. My mom has her grandkids tonight, and we're going out.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. But you're right. It's I would say like placing priority on it. I think that was the more just important for me is how does it look like I'm prioritizing this thing, and not just throwing like, okay, it's been a while. We need to go for a date. We need to go hang out. We need to go chill or something like that. You know. But it's really just placing priority on building our marriage instead of just saying, okay.
Consistently. And that's another childhood thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't see that in our childhoods. And so that's another way, like just the behaviors of our parents can transfer over into adults. We had examples of what a marriage, what it looks like for two people to live together and have children together, but like we don't really have examples of healthy, flourishing marriages growing up. And it is one of those things where I was bringing an anti-stance into my marriage, where the ways that my dad complained about my mom, I would make sure I didn't do those things in my marriage. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not being the type of wife that my mom is, but that has nothing to do with being the type of wife that he needs. Mm-hmm. And so like just even leaving habits and behaviors of your parents in their marriage and not bringing it into your own if that's not what serves your marriage, because it could be a thing of, you know, his dad might have been more of a yes dear type of husband, like just wanting to give his wife whatever she needed, and that might not be what I need. I might need you to tell me no. I might need you, you know what I mean, to like
I'm just like
to lead in a different way.
Well, yeah, just even like I guess the anti thing I was for my marriage is like my wife shouldn't have to, you know, just do a lot of just the labor in the house. You know, I think
that was a good anti thing to bring to the home.
Yeah, it was. It was a good anti thing. You know,
it worked in our marriage, so it's okay to keep if it works. But that's you have to assess and decide.
But also, I'm not going to be. She's not going to decorate the whole house without my input in. You know, and I think that's also is one of the things that, you know, it wasn't well accepted because I'll be like, nah, I don't like that.
I still feel a way about that.
Yeah, I don't like these curtains. I don't want these pillows. No, cause I feel like both people should love where they live.
And that's true, which is why I don't argue, but I still feel a way.
Yeah, you know, but
I can't argue against that, but I still feel a way.
Yeah, it was just like we both grew up in 2-parent households, and we just reassessed and looked at the things that were positive, and we saw that was negative, and we just figured, okay, we need to figure out what is right for us.
Yeah.
You know, because we knew that, you know, hey, you can be unhappy, you can have happy moments, but there are certain things that, man, that it will always be a problem, and we were just like, we don't want that for us, you know? And we're grateful for even the example that we did receive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're grateful for the opportunities to even just learn.
There's something even to compare to.
Yeah, there's something even to look at.
That's a gift in and of itself. Not a lot of people have that.
Not a lot of people can say they've seen that or even seen moments of love between two parents, you know?
Yeah, I will say his dad was really affectionate with his mom. Like, just didn't hide affection from the kids. And, like, even because we started dating as teenagers. And so I would see when he came home, he'd wrap his arms around his wife and give her a kiss and hold her for a little bit, you know. And that's one thing that Brian has carried into our marriage that I love. And I love that our son gets to look up at us. And our son is so sweet. And he looks at us and he smiles when he sees us giving affection to each other. And sometimes he'll come in and get in on it and want a family hug. And it's just something that I appreciate. My parents are weird. And there wasn't a lot of affection like that in my home. It wasn't anti that. It was just, we were weird. Like we would like if I wanted to touch my sister, it wouldn't be like, oh, I'm just going to give my sister a hug. I'd flick her and walk away. It's just, we were different. That's the way that we were weird.
We wasn't always huggy. Like, we could use words, though. We could, like, talk bad about each other. Like, we could just say that. As long as we didn't touch each other, like, we couldn't do that. Yeah. That'd be a fight.
No, but even like my dad, it wouldn't be like, come here, let me give you a hug. It'd be like, we're walking past and he would, like, trip us or, like, push us or, like, mush our head. And, I mean, it was funny and we would laugh and it's lighthearted. But like now that I think back about it, I'm like, he probably just cared to like make physical contact with you, and because he didn't grow up in a lovey-dovey mushy house, you know, that's what it looks like for him. And so with Brian's parents, it was a hug.
Well, we just felt affection. We were just affectionate toward each other.
Yeah. So I appreciate that now in my home, that I have that, and that, you know, my son has that. Anytime I want to hug him, I ask him for a hug, or I say, I didn't get a hug today, or I only got one hug today, and he'll come and give me a hug. And so he gets to be raised up with affection and physical affection. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like I should withhold any affection from him. You know, when I feel like, hey man, come over here, and give you a hug. You know, squeeze him tight.
He loves us so much.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good spot to like feel. You know what I'm saying? Just really just look back and reassess. Just reassess, look at it, and see where, you know, your childhood and those things affected. But which way this week did you feel loved by me?
I went first last week, so it's your turn.
Oh, you went first last week?
Yeah.
I thought I went first.
Okay, I'll go first. Bad memory. I felt loved by you this week multiple times. It was several times. Just deciding at this point. Because then I'm deciding how much I would need to share. I think in just saying that, you might know what I'm talking about. Let's go with I felt loved by you when we were having, not an argument, it was just an emotionally difficult discussion. And we were talking, and I brought up a point that in the past you may have either been more defensive or shut down a little bit or withdrew, maybe even needed a break, you know, and you took a beat and you said, okay, and then you said what you said. I know I'm being really vague, y'all, but he knows what I'm talking about. And then we were able to continue the conversation, and I was able then to be more emotionally vulnerable because of your emotional vulnerability. You were able to lead with that, and I was able to follow because of that. And I know you were doing that emotional work because of your love for me. And so that's what I felt like by you this week.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was thinking about doing the same.
It was a hard conversation.
Yeah, it was a hard conversation. We both fell in love by the end of it. We saw the love for
after
each
that
other.
conversation.
Yeah, we saw the love for each other in that conversation.
Yeah.
I think, let me see what's really poking out for me. What else? I think, well, even last night, letting me have my time to speak. I was on a phone call. You let me have that time, and he really wasn't like bothering me during that conversation. And I know there were points you could have bothered me. I feel like you were, you know, keeping on away for the most part. You know, because my son loves to come and say, "Hey, daddy, hey, daddy, hey."
It's children and puppies. When you're on the phone for over 5 minutes, they come find you and bother you, like, and they weren't worried about you before you got on the phone.
No, man, no. Just never. He never comes at me that much and be asking so many questions. And then also let me have my time to myself. You know, even though you're taking care of your hair, it was good. I had time to decompress. I felt I had, you know, that kind of space, and I felt just recharged. You know, so I felt loved by you in that way. You know, even if I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but I felt loved.
A little bit of both.
I did.
Good timing.
Yeah, it was good timing. Yes, yes, and it was needed. But yeah, that's how I felt love. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. We'll see you another time. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment anything that you want
to.
If you want to, you better like. Support the channel. Just if you want to comment, you know, so we can read them and we can
Yeah, what do
Even
you think about
yeah.
the adult child and parent relationship?
Yeah.
And,
How that affect your marriage
yeah.
and showed up in just different ways in your life, even if it's not your marriage, just adult life.
Yeah, let us know. Get in on the conversation.
Yes.
Respectfully in the comments.
Yes. Show love, no hate.
Yeah. And opinions don't equal hate. So if someone says something that you don't like, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. Everybody
to disagree respectfully.
Yeah. All right, until next time. Take care.